slightly different emphasis. And Jesus cried with a loud voice in the 37th verse, and gave up the ghost. And the veil of the temple was rent in twain from the top to the bottom. And when the centurion which stood over against him saw that, he so cried out and gave up the ghost, he said, truly, this man was the Son of God. You know what I have a feeling about? That the final revelation of the mystery of God in flesh, which Jesus demonstrated in his own body, is to be reserved for us at the end of the age. And despite the tens of thousands of bumper stickers, rallies, campaigns, and other no fuss, no stoop, no bother kinds of evangelism which have not saved the world, that the final witness for which God is reserving and indeed preparing us is another body impaled on a cross in ultimate suffering for the ultimate revelation of the truth of God in flesh. That maybe not an unbelieving Roman, but unbelieving Jews and those who share that spirit of that Jewish lifestyle, seeing these things, will cry out, truly, this is the Son of God. Nothing reveals like suffering. A whole unbelieving mankind which has deified man and is becoming brutalized and sensual waits the revealing of the mystery of God indwelt in men. When it shall be compelled to crucify us for the same reasons that it crucified him, it may be that ultimate truth will again be revealed in ultimate suffering to the only cry that will save. Truly, this is the Son of God. You say, what do you mean, Art? That they're going to be compelled to crucify us for the same reasons for which they crucified him. I think it has something to do with this. That a writer has said that Jesus suffered and died, not by happenstance, nor only the fulfillment of the Father's plan for atonement, but that he brought it upon himself by his own character, by his own life, and by his message. What then shall be brought upon us if we adopt his character, move in his life, and proclaim his message? I wonder if God is not preparing a body again for burial, but a body that will, in the final and ultimate moment of dying, be able to yield up the ghost. When he saw this, how are you doing in yielding up now? It's been our experience in our little community situation in Minnesota, having people come to us who are ardent in their belief in discipleship and commitment and submission, really believed it, that we've heard a screech and a holler and a copping out and a flight when it was actually required for the rubber to hit the road. And that we have seen a depth of revelation of the independency of spirit and self-willedness and rebellion in God's people when a yielding is required that is shocking. When he gave up the ghost, when he yielded up the ghost, in ultimate suffering for the truth's sake, one whom we would never expect to be able to sense or see anything spiritually cried out with the cry that saves, truly this man was the Son of God. I believe with all my heart that God is seeking and is preparing again for the end of the age such a man. He'll not be one who is accustomed to conventional preliminaries and likes rip-roaring religious times and a lot of excitement and emotion and going home happy. But I think that that son and that man will be drafted from among those who could come to a strange situation, as for example like tonight, in the foolishness of an almost empty auditorium, without the advantage of the accustomed preliminaries of service, with not so much as a note sung or played, to hear rather unusual words spoken or even read, without any of the histrionic and glamorous means of projecting messages through personality, and know that God is speaking something solemn, something needful, which has been grievously left unspoken in our entire generation. The spirit that clamors for prosperity, for blessings, quote unquote, and the rapture, is not the spirit that's going to appreciate a message on suffering and the cross. We know that the spirit of Antichrist is already in the world. And anti not only means opposed, but seeking to be something like him, yet not him. How shocked and stunned might we be to realize to what degree we ourselves have submitted and may actually be operating in that spirit, if our Christ is not the Christ who suffered, died, and rose again. Not just as doctrine, but in the actuality of our own knowledge and experience. The issue of the cross is the issue of death. Suffering is dying. And we have not been prepared, either by our churches, let alone in the world, to be disposed to consider it or to do it. The way of the cross is the way of abandonment. A great darkness came over the earth while Jesus was impaled on the cross. How many of us would be willing for a great darkness, a great nothingness to come upon us? Even to the point that those things that we thought that we understood, the little notions that we have, the doctrines of which we're so assured, should also be brought to the nothingness of that darkness. There's a veil that needs to be rent. Torn perhaps this time, not from the top to the bottom, but from the bottom to the top, as we give up the ghost with a loud cry, that those who are seeing us might cry out, truly, this man is the Son of God. The darkness that covered Jesus upon the cross must come upon you also, as a negation of all things, even that which we think we have understood about the cross itself. The cross is the most unreligious symbol that could ever be imagined. The crucifixion of Jesus, that pathetic thing that words cannot describe nor comprehend. The ending of a life in nakedness that began in nakedness is the complete negation of every kind of conventional wisdom and religious notion that men could conjure. There's no way to come to it by your reason. The fact that we think we have is contradicted by our lives. You can only come to it in darkness, in repentance, and in no other way. Because it is perverse, it is ugly, it is unappealing and unattractive. For which reason only perverse, ugly, unappealing, and unattractive people have never had difficulty in coming to the cross. To see him as he is means also to see ourselves as we are. And to have a distorted notion of him is to have also a distorted and self-exalting notion of ourselves. If the prophet Isaiah, seeing the Lord high and lifted up, cried out, "Woe is me, I am undone. I am a man of unclean lips, and I live in the midst of a people of unclean lips." What then shall we say, who are not prophets and oracles of God?